can make bread.
I agree.
I can make bread too. But
see, that's my point. There's 3 of us who can make some bread, right?
But you're talking about 3 people that probably. How many of your friends can? Because I know
make some Jiffy Mix.
That's not the
they
same.
ain't gonna be there. Jiffy Mix won't be there. Jiffy Mix ain't. I'm talking about making out flour, water, and salt, and some.
Let's go further than that. Who got the skills to take some corn
and mill it?
That's because you're not gonna have the flour. You might not have the flour.
If I'm pressed to do it, I can do
that's what I'm
it.
saying.
I need to make butter. I can make butter. If I gotta figure out how to milk a cow,
have you ever milked a cow?
I've milked a cow, but I'm different. I'm not the average.
Once or twice. Also,
what about fishing? If you ain't gonna have a cow,
I'm not a fisherman.
But you ain't gonna have a cow. Where you gonna get the cow from in Detroit?
Not in Detroit. I'm not gonna find it.
But you say you want to stay in the urban area.
23 in Van Dyke is urban.
Can't do it.
That's a long ass walk to go get some butter, ain't it?
Listen,
and they probably gonna be dead because somebody gonna kill them and eat them anyway. More than likely.
When you
go into a desperate situation,
there are individuals
people gonna start trading
their resources. You can't think about butter and this and that. You forage and you hunt. You go fishing. That's the only thing
I know those. Listen, if you stuck me in a bad situation like that, I would know there's enough to eat in this urban setting. Now, the things I'd be worried about would be pesticides that we spray.
Like where? At the grocery store.
You know what? We can kind of break.
Listen, if I have to get out here and pick dandelions in the spring, I can do that. If I need to use a book, Gibbons left a book.
We don't even have to
talking about asparagus.
We don't even have to go that deep.
If I need to see, I'm in a different skill set than. Because I cooked for a living for a long time.
But that's because you're one of the few.
And it's by happenstance, not because I went out and went, I'm going to just become a
question. Let me ask you a question.
A trapper, a hunter.
We actually, there was something that we can use as a real case study right now, as far as the response of what occurred under similar circumstances. Granted, it was not the entire country, but it was a significant region. And we can look at what happened after Hurricane Katrina. And after Hurricane Katrina, you had now I do know, and more than likely, if we were living in New Orleans,
we flew
because of the flooding. But I'm saying we take the flooding out. We say the flooding is subsided, but we still don't have power. We don't still have access to supermarkets and things like that. But what that showed me is that not only that, but there are too many people within the current society that we have that don't have skills for survival, and those that do have it, what Hurricane Katrina, what even in every time in Florida, whenever they announce that there is a storm coming and you need to prepare. There isn't enough stuff on stock in most stores that as soon as they make the announcement, you see on the news, it's gone. So we know that there isn't going to be a protracted period. So what's going to happen here? So if something happened on that scale in Detroit, even with the urban gardens, they're going to get wiped out immediately. And they're not going to. There's not going, because of people's mindsets. There are too many people that haven't had to deal with struggle. Okay, as far as like
abject poverty, we talking about
abject poverty. There are too many people that become too comfortable to be like that, cannot accept rationing. They're not gonna be like, look, you might not be able to eat today because we gotta feed these children first. We gotta feed the children. So like.
I don't think it'll go that way.
A good book, I'm telling you, a good book to check out. A good book to check out is, and you don't even have to read the whole book. If you read just the first 2 chapters of The Stand by Stephen King, right?
Okay.
And in The Stand, Stephen King talks about it was a mutated version of like anthrax or some virus that wiped out. It only left a little over 10% of the world's population alive. but that was still a lot of people. Okay,
10% would be 700 million people.
so spread out. But what he talked about was, he talked about the number of lives that were lost because now that you don't have power, there's somebody that has an abscess tooth or something like that. That now because there's no medical attention, that person's going to die. Person breaks their ankle, that person's going to die.
What about the people that need
Person that needs-
daily like
People that need
dialysis?
that. So now
That's just like
these
the Civil
are
War.
Right.
these are choices that are going to have to be made.
Most of those people gonna have most of the injuries.
They're gonna have short lives.
They're gonna have short lives, and there's going to be the very realistic
Well, I mean,
choice of who are you going to take care of and who you know who's going to be a sacrifice.
In 1915, the Spanish flu wiped out 25% of the world's population.
Yeah, and you know what the sad part about that is? They say that realistically, they think that more people died probably from aspirin than they died of the flu.
But what I'm saying by saying that is that 25% of the world's population died, and
Still didn't do too much of a dent, basically.
It didn't. But in a sense, though,
Smaller population.
could we withstand 25% of the world's population? And
I think it depends upon where
I think
it's
it's
it
very
depends upon where it is.
questionable.
I think it depends upon where it's at. I think if you
I'm talking about in the supposedly the industrialized society.
no, the industrialized society couldn't handle it. It would cause a shift.
You're saying like the G20
It
nations.
would cause a shift.
if
It
we
would
lost.
cause a shift. It would
Right.
cause
I just think that
it'll cause a shift.
I don't think that a society is built. It's not apt to deal with that.
That's the money moving
That's
part of the
And also,
society.
you got to think about it. We're so countries as a whole, we're so connected and dependent on each other. If something happened in America, something big, that affects everybody.
Right.
You know, the thing that with that though is I think that with the current administration that we have is that I see the systematic removal or systematic change in other countries' relationship with the United States so that they can separate themselves so that they're not as entangled with what was happening in America as they were in the past.
I just think that as a society is in jeopardy almost on a yearly basis of collapse, and we haven't even really experienced anything of the magnitude of like the tsunami in the Indian Ocean area.
The rest of the world has though.
Well, the rest of the world has, but their mindset. You know, the thing about it is you have a whole population of people in the United States that need daily care.
And you have
they
don't have them in other places.
Well, no.
The reality, not to the magnitude
the conditions that you're talking about.
I mean, also, we're the third most populated country in the world.
Problems.
No, but right. So the conditions that you're talking about, that we're saying that individuals here would have a difficult time dealing with, like no electricity, no sanitation. There's a large number of people that are living that right now.
I was about to say
They're living that.
we're really only discussing rich people problems because against the rest of the world,
but that's
our
America.
poverty here is not the same
It's
as
not
it
the
is
same.
anywhere else.
That's why I believe that we are at a much higher propensity for collapse than other places because even our poor are rich compared to other countries.
Our poor are well off compared
to and again, there are so
the thing
we got how many people are in our prisons?
About 3 million people in the U.S. prisons.
So what's going to happen with that? So you're not going to convince me that
you're going to do? We're going to leave them in there.
You can't
and
do it.
It's
not going to happen.
Do you know?
They run the prisons. The prisoners run the prisons.
Listen, hey, I went to Pennington Gap for a job at a federal prison. I didn't get the job, but I know the prisoners run the prison because they were operating the heavy equipment outside. And I was thinking, man, if these guys decide to bus up and there's nowhere to go because it's 60 miles of wilderness.
Oh yeah, but
and the people who live in that wilderness.
If there's a breakdown, they're going to get out.
I think we would leave
the thing about
our prisoners.
Suggestion,
but that's the thing is that
they're so far away. We're not going to waste our resources.
We are not the ones. We are not the ones that are going to be able to make that decision.
They will be.
Suggestions. If you got to get out of this urban area, Do not try to take the highways, freeways. If you gotta walk the train. The train and the rail tracks will get you out of the urban area if you gotta get out. But the fucking freeways and stuff are gonna.
Yeah, it's gonna get clogged up.
It's gonna be annihilation.
To be martial law instituted very quickly. Not that it could hold large swaths of area.
The problem is with anything governmental, is based upon having that communication.
And the technology won't be there.
And with technology shutting down, are there archaic analog communication methods still in place that they would be able to communicate martial law? And then with the militias, with your average citizen who's
500 million guns in the U.S.
How in the world are you going to have 10 dudes in uniforms walk down the street? I understand the extremes that you're going to, but the thing is, it's going to completely break down if we run into that type of disaster.
Logistically speaking, you can't even get stuff to them
the government's going to lock itself down and protect itself. They're not going to be worried about individual citizens.
Yeah, the reality
They're going to let us.
They're going to protect the rich, and they're going to protect the politicians, which are rich.
Protect the interests.
Or some of the politicians.
Capitalism, protect the property. Protect the property.
It's like
Boils down to
it's
that.
like a body.
When it gets down,
It's like if a body, when a person is going through some level of trauma, the first thing the body is going to do is going to start to try to protect the internal organs. So blood is going to say, I really don't need these fingers. I don't need these fingers or toes. So I'm going to bring my blood flow closer to these organs. And as the more distressful it becomes, the further away the extremities become more and more expendable. So you will have unfortunately for these urban environments, we're sacrificed. They're like they're gone. It's like it was something that we would kick. It was something that was kicked when we were in our 20s. They don't out here talking about it anymore. You ever heard of the King Alfred plan?
No.
Okay. Yes, you have.
So
wait,
you've heard of the King Alfred plan. You may not remember hearing about the King Alfred plan.
Well, I was about to backtrack that because
the King Alfred plan basically was a systematic process that the government has in place if there's ever uprising, if there's civil unrest.
I was about to say, I know what
where they would, and they've done it. They did it to the Japanese, and they would,
the whole idea about it, the stadiums being purposely put into urban settings,
so you can gather people,
so you can subjugate.
Hurricane Katrina was a test.
Perfect example.
It was an
That's the only way, because they're going to garner. You're not going to be able. But see, the thing about it is, I think the government could probably subsist for maybe a month without electricity. After that, it would completely collapse. And if the United States collapsed, the whole world would collapse right after. So you don't have society in a sense that we.
I don't know, because if that's the case,
you don't have society.
By your body scenario, you know what the rest of the world will do? Cut off the United States.
Think about it.
They'd have to live
the
without
whole
it.
country, the whole Western world exists only because the United States exists.
But listen to this.
The only reason the United,
this is purely a rhetorical question, because of the fact that everybody doesn't have to have this response. But a very basic question is why does a person in the United States stop at a red light in the middle of the night or in the morning when they are the only person out on the road? Because of conditioning. We've been conditioned to believe. And so what my mentors would break to us is that there is no government. There is no laws. The only thing that really exists is our response to it. There is nothing that's tangible. We can't hold the government. We cannot hold a law. But because somebody said it, we all agree to follow it. It's all based upon agreement. And what he's saying is that the world that we live in today has agreed that the United States has this role and position that we might not necessarily run it, but we have enough role and interaction, and the U.S. dollar has so much entwinement. So that's why, like right now with the deal that's going on in Iran and Trump saying, I'm stepping out this nuclear deal. Europe is like, damn, what do we do? Like, we don't really want to mess this up because Iran might nut up. But can we do it without being tangled up with them? You know what I mean? Where
a
it
lot
was
of
like
European
it was
countries
easy.
get 65 to 75% of their oil from Iran. We only get less than 15%.
And
so
what is oil being traded in?
Well, U.S. dollars.
U.S. dollars. So again, so you say, okay, country, gone. So now Iran says, we only taking gold, or we only taking this currency. We're not taking the euro no more, because we don't have to. You're going to have to get our money. You're going to have to get the dinar. We're going to have to do something different. And Europe not necessarily positioned for that. Then you got Russia out there, and Putin be like,
he's going to lock his front door.
No, he might not know. If I'm Putin, I'm not locking my front door. As soon as I know the United States is gone, I'm like, listen.
World power.
I'm like, y'all can either.
You don't think the Chinese would have something to say to it?
And they would be down with them.
Actually, us, the Russians and the Chinese.
Those are the only three world powers truly reside in Russia, India, China, and the U.S.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's India. India has the manpower, but India doesn't have the tech. India has.
They got the tech.
They don't have the tech. They have the tech.
They have the people that have the tech.
But
they got the knowledge.
There is that hookup that we were talking about as far as
the H1B.
You've got like
go back.
I'd say, and I could be wrong, but I'm comfortably saying that you got a good 60% of individuals living in the continent of India that don't have running water. That's still cooking on a charcoal.
I don't need everybody to have it.
But so, like, what I'm saying is that again, if something broke down there, they would be able to handle it because they already living like that.
No, the thing about it is that India is military is dependent on the United States.
I want to get.
They've got 1 million people in their military.
I want to get back to a question that was posed, if you don't mind. What would happen to the rest of the world if America did go down? America would get looted. Russia, China, Japan, everybody would have people over here.
It would take a minute because
China's in almost a state of collapse in itself, though.
But
I don't think.
But no matter what,
they have no population. There in a few years, the most of their population will be of elderly age. They won't have anybody to work. So how are they going to take care of themselves?
But if the big dragon that's the United States suddenly slumped over, it would be people from everywhere taking secrets out of here.
Oh yeah, they would be trying to take secrets out of here. Yeah,
they'd be trying to take
knowledge
secrets out of here. Knowledge would be under assault.
The thing about it is,
I will say the only thing that keeps people off of everybody's back is nuclear weapons. And even if I'm sure there's a way to power those nuclear weapons without